Hey everyone, today I'm driving a 2015 Volkswagen Golf TDI, and if you're in the market for a commuter car, you need to look at one of these. This might be the best deal out there right now when it comes to a commuter car. The 2015 model year of the Volkswagen Golf marked the beginning of the current Mark 7 MQB platform. It also marked the first year of an all-new EA 288 2-liter turbo diesel engine. However, 2015 also marked the last year you could get this TDI engine in any Volkswagen Auto Group product here in the United States. As most of you know, this was due to the Dieselgate scandal that broke out in late 2014, which ultimately forced Volkswagen to stop selling and producing TDIs from that point forward. Fast forward a few years, and Volkswagen's been pushing tens of thousands of these buyback TDIs into the market via dealer auctions now that Volkswagen and the EPA have agreed upon the fix. Today I'm going to review this 73,000-mile 2015 Golf TDI S. I will go over some of the features and specifications, take it for a test drive, and then go over pricing to find out if it really is a good value. I will also go over the history of Volkswagen diesels here in the United States, including information on the Dieselgate scandal timeline from a dealer's perspective, including details on TDI values and the buyback process over the past few years. Finally, I will go over some of the common failures and projected repair and maintenance. I'll compare it to some other similar cars, and then I will give it my overall used car review score. Let's go over a little history of the Golf and diesel models. Volkswagen introduced the Mark I Rabbit in 1975 with a 70 horsepower single overhead cam 1.5 liter four-cylinder engine, and it did 0 to 60 in about 10.8 seconds. The first diesel engine came to the US market in the 1977 Rabbit and later in Dasher models. This non-turbo 1.5 liter four-cylinder made a measly 48 horsepower, requiring a snail pace of 16.8 seconds just to make 60 miles per hour. However, fuel economy got a huge bump, going from the low 30s with the gas engine to over 50 miles per gallon in the diesel. A 68 horsepower turbocharged 1.6 liter diesel became available in the 1983 Rabbit and 83 and 84 Jettas, with Mark II Golf and Jetta models receiving a 1.6 liter non-turbo 53 horsepower engine. Diesel-powered Volkswagens were not offered in the Mark III platform in the US market. In fact, they did not return until the first TDI engine was offered in the 1997 Passat. And then later it came in the Mark IV Golf, New Beetle, and Jetta models. TDI stands for Turbocharged Direct Injection, and the first version was a 1.9 liter single overhead cam four-cylinder that made a much improved 90 horsepower and 150 foot-pounds of torque. This engine proved very successful and was able to be converted to use alternative biofuels, and in fact started the cult following that still exists today with many TDI owners. It was later updated in 2004 to produce 100 horsepower. That same engine carried over into the Mark V chassis for 2006, and only in the Jetta, as it was never offered in the Rabbit hatchback. This also marked the first year that you could get the TDI engine with the DSG direct shift gearbox dual clutch DCT transmission. This transmission was a big improvement over prior 4-speed torque converter automatics and has been used ever since with all TDI models. 2006 proved to be the only year to get the 1.9 liter TDI engine in a Mark V, as tougher EPA regulations kept the engine out of the US until the revised 2-liter engine became available in 2009. 2009 marked the introduction of an all-new 2-liter TDI engine. It incorporated double overhead cams, 16 valves, direct injection, and common rail technology. This new engine now meant choosing the diesel wasn't a performance sacrifice over the standard gas 2.5 liter 5-cylinder, as it now made 140 horsepower and an incredible 236 foot-pounds of torque. That brings us to the updated Mark 7 chassis for 2015 and the introduction of the EA 288 TDI engine, which, as mentioned before, ultimately became the final year you could get a Golf TDI in the United States. The 2015 Golf TDI came in two body configurations, the 5-door hatchback and a wagon. It also came in three trim levels, the base S that you see here, the SE, and the SEL. A 6-speed manual transmission was standard on all TDI models, which was a step up from the 5-speed manual offered on TSI models. The quick-shifting DSG 6-speed dual-clutch transmission was available on all trim levels as an $1,100 option. The base S came equipped with 16-inch aluminum wheels, leatherette seats, and just your standard audio system with 8 speakers and manual climate control. Going from the S to the SE was a pretty big price jump, but it offered a lot more standard equipment, including 17 by 7-inch wheels, a panoramic moonroof, a 9-speaker Fender sound system, backup camera, and heated front seats. Jumping up to the SEL gave you all the items from an SE, plus 18-inch wheels, keyless start, automatic climate control, and 8-way power adjustable sport front seats. Okay, so here we are in kind of an interior view. I'll go ahead and start it up and kind of show you a little bit here on the as far as the features go. So one thing about this car that might startle some people is the sound of how the car starts up. It almost sounds like an old car starting up. So one thing to consider about diesel engines is they have a lot of compression, and it takes a lot of force to turn the engine over to get it to get it to start. It kind of has a clunky shake to it when it starts up, but that's very normal operation for diesels. So I really do like the fit and finish of the interior on these. I think it was a nice step up from the Mark 6 platform. The aluminum look to the trim is nice. It is just plastic, but it does have a nice, solid look to it and gives it a nice feel. So this is the S model, and it is the base. So in 2015, it does lack some things that new Golfs would have, such as, if you open this up here, there's no USB port in here. It has a Volkswagen style plug that you would need to get an adapter to go to a USB. So the way to do it is obviously via Bluetooth, which works just fine. This is the standard audio system, 5.8 touchscreen. It sounds okay, but if you're looking for something that's nice as far as audio systems go, you would want to get an SE or an SEL, which would have the Fender sound system. But it works pretty well. Shifter, pretty standard. It has manual controls. You pull it back into the drive, and if you pull it back one more time, it will go into S, the Sport. And then if you push it over here, then you can do manual controls this way, or with the paddle shifters here on the steering wheel. On other Volkswagen models with TDIs, even though they have the same DSG transmission, if you get a Jetta, a Passat, they do not have the paddle shifters on the steering wheel. So that's a basic layout of the interior. Again, pretty simplistic. Okay, getting ready to get on the freeway and to get a first impression of this TDI. The torque is just amazing. I just spun the front tires when it shifted to second gear. So getting on the freeway is actually really easy with this car. The power and torque is very strong. It pulls very, very smoothly and nicely. It was very easy to be 80 miles an hour before I even got onto the freeway itself. If you have reservations about owning a diesel, you really owe it to yourself to go out and drive one. Modern day diesels are so vastly improved over what Volkswagen did in the late 70s and early 80s with their Rabbits, or say some of the GM products from the early 80s that had a non-turbo V6 diesel. So those cars would not get out of their own way. They had trouble even maintaining freeway speeds. These are actually amazing. The torque is impressive, and you really owe it to yourself to take one out for a drive to see for yourself. So I'm out here on the freeway, and the ride quality is very nice. Now, I will preface all of this video by saying I own a Volkswagen Golf myself. It is not a diesel. It is a 1.8 TSI. It's a sport wagon, and so I'm very familiar with the feel and freeway ride of this chassis, and it's one of my favorites. I wouldn't own it if it wasn't. It tracks straight and true. The suspension is nice. It soaks up stuff really well. The ride is smooth. It just really has a nice, hefty feel to it for long distance trips. You're not going to mistake this car for a Lexus. It transmits little imperfections, but it does so in a nice, solid way of communicating that this car is got some sporting nature to it. But at the same time, it's actually very supple. So it's a really nice combination, a really good trade-off, and definitely makes you feel a little bit more connected to the road without it being harsh. The steering feel so far on the freeway and on this road so far, the steering feel is really nice, very direct, very on center. You don't get any numbness or wandering in the car. If you move the wheel a little bit, it directs the car. So let's talk about the engine. The code for it's the EA288 engine. It's a double overhead cam, 16 valve, 2 liter, direct injected turbo diesel. 150 horsepower, which is not very much when you think about it. A lot of compact cars, like the Mazda 3 comes to mind, make more power, but 236 foot-pounds of torque at 1,750 RPM. That's a big number. In fact, it's a bigger number than a lot of GTIs when it comes to torque. 0 to 60 is around 7.8 seconds, around 16.1 seconds through the quarter mile. Nothing earth-shattering there when it comes to performance numbers, but it feels faster than that. So for a daily driver standpoint, when you're cruising around and you're at a stoplight, who cares how fast it goes 0 to 60? If it feels like it's going fast, that's part of the driving experience. So the torque definitely helps with that. So we're getting up to the twisty part of this road. I'm going to put it over into the manual mode so that I can make my own shifts here. And let's see how this TDI can hang on a back road. So making downshifts while I'm doing this is actually unnecessary. The torque is just amazing. Just leaving it in third gear and working fourth gear, it just pulls out of these corners. So I really enjoy the handling of this chassis. And on a road like this that is not the smoothest, and there's definitely a lot of bumps, and especially some of them are in mid-apex, and the cars that have modified suspension especially, or more sport-oriented cars, actually struggle on roads like this because the bumps. But Volkswagen does such a fantastic job of that ride and handling trade-off. There's just not a lot of cars, especially in this segment, that compact car segment, that rival it. And obviously with this car, the bonus is that you've got a diesel engine that provides a lot of torque and can get you mid 40 mile per gallon on the highway. Now you can get this car equipped with a 6-speed manual for those of you that like to shift your own gears. And it's a very nice transmission, works really well. And then obviously you would have that complete driver engagement there where you could, keep it in the gear that you want it and do the shifting. That being said, unlike most automatics, I am a very big fan of Volkswagen's DSG transmission. When you go into manual mode using the paddle shifters or the shifter itself, it just provides a better driver experience and more engagement than most automatics do. So like with any car, there can be some common issues with these. One of those things is the high pressure fuel pump can fail. It's pretty rare that happens, but it can happen. And if it does, it's an expensive repair. But from what I've read, Volkswagen has been taking care of those failures, even on cars with some higher miles. Don't quote me on that. You would need to check with your dealer first, but that's something that I have read. Besides that, there's not too much major mechanical that I have seen on these, especially on the newer 2015s. There has been some, apparently people have reported some clunking from the rear suspension that I have read is related to the shock absorbers. This is a different suspension in this particular car. It uses a twist beam or a torsion beam axle suspension. So, but it sounds like that isn't too big of a deal to fix. And the other common things I've seen is infotainment screen crashes where you get a black screen. So, you could have a few things like that, but overall, I would not recommend any other car over this per se, just based on reliability alone. I've seen just as many problems with Toyotas and Hondas and other brand cars in this price range and this age. With a German car, you definitely want to plan on it possibly being more money to both maintain and take care of repairs. It's going to be a robust car. It's going to do really well, but when you do have to spend money on it, it could be a little higher than competing brands to do that. The thing that I like to say with this is that it just doesn't tolerate neglect. So with German cars, if the owner's manual says to do a certain thing on the maintenance guide, do it. Do the recommended services and take care of things the way Volkswagen wants, and I don't think the car is going to let you down. Some of the competitors to this car, the first thing that comes to mind would be a Toyota Prius, because it has obviously the fuel economy and it's a hatchback style car. So it does offer a good blend. And it just kind of comes down to what your preferences are. I personally like the engagement of the 6-speed DSG transmission and how it shifts gears over a CVT transmission that's in a hybrid. The hybrid's going to get a little better gas mileage depending on what your driving style is. Another comparable car that I think is worth mentioning is a Mazda 3. You can get that in a hatchback. It has similar space. And it also offers a similar sporty feel that this car has. It just does it with a gas engine. Their Skyactiv engine is actually pretty nice. It offers, pretty reasonable power and torque, but also returns pretty good fuel economy. It won't get as good a gas mileage as this car does, but you can get up to 40 miles per gallon in one of those cars on the freeway. And again, they offer a really sporty experience. So it's interesting, the story of the price ranges on these cars. Prior to Dieselgate, a 2013 or a 2014 used TDI with 50,000 miles, let's say, retail value on those cars were anywhere from $18,000 to $22,000. Not 3 or 4 months later, after Dieselgate broke, values plummet. Many owners just wanted to get out of their car. They would trade them in and take whatever they would. The problem was dealers didn't know what they were worth because there was fear in the market and nobody knew what Volkswagen was going to do. So values plummeted. I've seen, in that time frame, I'd seen used pre-owned TDIs going through auction for as little as $3,000 because nobody knew what to expect and they were almost sale-proof. Then Volkswagen announced what they were going to do for their current customers. They offered a buyback program, and that was a very lucrative program to where you were going to get market value prior to the scandal plus restitution. Well, one of the keys to that whole story was it didn't matter who you were. If you owned one, whether you were a private party or a dealer, you still qualified for the buyback program. Dealers caught wind of this and started buying them up. And some of them hoarded thousands of these cars, reportedly, because they could buy them so cheap at auction, and Volkswagen was paying retail money plus restitution. It was a very, very lucrative process. Well, what that did was it spiked values. All of a sudden, 2012 to 2014 TDIs, whether it's a Jetta or a Golf or a Passat, were all of a sudden selling at auction for $15,000, $18,000, $20,000 because they could turn around and get more money back from Volkswagen. And this is all prior to Volkswagen actually fixing the cars. So now fast forward a couple years ago, and Volkswagen announces what they were going to do to fix the cars, and they start putting the cars back out into the market being fixed. Well, a fixed Volkswagen was not worth near what one that wasn't fixed was worth because Volkswagen wasn't going to buy that one back. So now all of a sudden you had confusion, especially amongst the dealer crowd, because they weren't sure which cars had been fixed and which ones had not. But then when the cars started getting fixed and out, now that the scandal is completely over, the buyback period is totally gone, there's a lot of these cars on the market. So what that's done is driven the price down. Plus, there's still some uncertainty. If you're watching this, you're probably still thinking, I'm not sure about those cars. What did they do to fix them? And then there's the whole moral part of it, right? The fact that Volkswagen cheated. And do you want to support a company like that? Market value on these cars right now is anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000, and that depends on mileage and condition, of course. But to me, it's amazing that you can get so much car for not much more than $10,000. And that is why you really need to consider one of these. Now it's time for my overall used car score. First off, the fun category. For the engine, Volkswagen pretty much saved the best for last, and it's too bad it's not being made anymore. Good power, great torque, and pretty smooth and quiet for a diesel. As for the transmission,
As I mentioned earlier, I'm a big fan of the Volkswagen Auto Group DSG transmission. It offers the precision of a manual combined with the ease of an automatic. It can be a little clunky and isn't always smooth, but it delivers ultra quick shifts and mates very well to the engine. I give it a 7 out of 10 for powertrain.
The numbers say it only offers average acceleration, but the surge of torque makes this car feel quicker than it really is, earning it a bonus point. So I give it a 6 out of 10 for acceleration. The ride and handling trade-off is pretty good for this class of car, but it isn't best at either. Outright handling is limited to a soft suspension and all-season tires, but chassis composure is very good, so I give it a 6 out of 10 for handling. For styling, this car breaks no new ground, and it's your typical four-door hatchback box. There's no mistaking it's a Volkswagen, though. Both interior and exterior are very conservative in overall style. So I give it a 6 out of 10 for styling. Weekend. While this is a perfectly capable car for taking you to and from all your favorite weekend activities, it will likely never be the reason you took the trip in the first place, especially if there is something more sporty sitting in your garage. However, it has ample storage space and the ability to mount a roof rack, meaning it will haul all of your gear very comfortably. So I give it a 5 out of 10 for a weekend score. That makes a total of 30 out of 50 for the fun score. Next is the practical category. For comfort, as the owner of a Mark 7 Golf, I can attest to the comfort level of this car. It's an excellent freeway warrior and can suck up hundreds of miles with ease. It has that typical German car stiffness that isn't quite Lexus-like, but it has ample room and very supportive seats. So I give it a 7 out of 10 for comfort. Utility. The utility is very good, and the hatchback design and split folding seats offer up to 52.7 cubic feet of cargo space, which is similar to a lot of mid-size SUVs. So I give it a 7 out of 10 for utility. Economy. With 40 plus real mile per gallon average possible, only some hybrids and of course full electric cars are going to score better for economy. So I give it an 8 out of 10 in the economy category. Overall quality in modern day Volkswagens has taken a big step up from generations in the past. And in my professional experience, reliability isn't far off from brands such as Toyota and Honda. Plus, Volkswagen has extended the engine warranty 100,000 miles from the point when the car was fixed. That being said, the diesel may require a bit more maintenance with things like DEF, and the DSG transmission requires a critical service every 40,000 miles. So I give it a 6 out of 10 for quality. Pricing. The Dieselgate scandal has had a big impact on TDI pricing. In my professional opinion, values are 20 to 30% lower now than they would have been otherwise. This means you get a lot of car for the money, and because values dropped so much already, future resale values should be very good. I give it an 8 out of 10 for pricing. That makes a total practical score of 36 out of 50, bringing the total score to 66 out of 100. So that's it. That's my review of the 2015 Volkswagen Golf TDI. I've enjoyed my drive in this car. Thanks for watching. Definitely like and comment and subscribe. Thanks for watching, everyone.